start with a cover statement. Our discussion may include predictions, estimates, or other information that might be considered forward-looking. While these forward-looking statements represent the company's current judgment on what the future holds, they are subject to risks and uncertainties that could cause actual results to differ materially. You are cautioned not to place undue reliance on these forward-looking statements, which reflect opinions only as of the date of this presentation. Please keep in mind that the company is not obligating themselves to revise or publicly release the results of any revision to these forward-looking statements in light of new information or future events. Throughout today's discussion, we will attempt to present some important factors relating to the company's business that may affect any predictions. With that being said, Nicholas, welcome to the interview and to this Discord.
Hey, thanks for having me, Ryan. I appreciate it. And thanks to Tad at OTC Trader for setting it up, man.
Yeah, absolutely. That's yeah, definitely. Thanks to him for setting this up, and it's great having you here. Yeah, so let's kick it off with some questions. Can you tell me a little about 3DX and when you joined the company and a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I joined the company a year ago in March, last March. A little bit about me: went to business school, went to law school, graduated both. Worked at Merrill Lynch, worked at the New York Stock Exchange. I'm a lifelong entrepreneur, kind of semi-retired 2 years ago, buying a bunch of real estate in upstate New York, and was looking for my next adventure when 3DX called and was asked for, making this clear, when asked for a business plan out of one of my consulting companies. So helped them develop that, and then they brought me on board. So that's a little bit about me. About the company, I went to go see them. So I've been floating around in the OTC sector as an investor mainly, and kind of got fed up with, all the companies that weren't real companies that were,
Yeah,
issuing
absolutely.
press releases and, just didn't have anything there. There was nothing real, a lot of financial maneuvering. So when they asked me to
Right.
come on board, the first thing I did was I said, well, let me come and see you guys to make sure you guys are real, and then we can talk about it. And when I went out, I flew out to the state of Washington to go see their operations. I realized, oh man, this is a real company. I walked into their operations. They had, $1 million worth of 3D printing machinery, probably another $1 million in CNC machinery. And I looked at their balance sheet and I saw that it was misstated when I got there. I said, oh man, these guys have way more assets than are actually stated on the book. So that was the first thing. I saw real employees there, that work there 9 to 5. So
Right.
that was the first thing. That was kind of the overarching thing, right? And I was like, wow, this is interesting, right? Is out of 100 companies, maybe you find 5 that actually have operations that are running
Sure.
like that. So I joined. And so a little bit about 3DX. 3DX is a manufacturing business. They're a metal manufacturing company. They started as a CNC machinery shop. So basically making any kind of metal components that you can think of. Everything from car bumpers to Navy link chains to bearings to, if it can be made out of metal, they made it. Right
Okay.
now, one of their biggest orders is for the U.S. Navy, and they're pumping out you ever seen the aircraft carriers, the big aircraft carriers that have the airplanes on them in the Navy?
Sure.
They make the chains that attach those things to the shore, those huge
Okay.
chains that attach the anchors. They make those chains. They make the links one by one. They carve these links out of solid steel. So that's, what I call their subtractive side. So that means,
Okay.
right? So that's
So they're actually
machine.
CNCing those out of billet.
Correct. Out of a
Okay.
big piece of steel, they go in
Okay.
with a drill and pop, 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 right? They take out the steel and then eventually leaves them with the link.
Right. Right.
And then that's one side of the machine shop. And then the other side of the machine shop, they had invested in 3D printers, metal 3D printers. Now, most of the world knows about plastic 3D printers, but the metal
Sure.
3D printers are pretty new. And so they spent the last few years kind of, ironing out this technology, understanding it, and, proving it out. And now they have it set up. So it's a combination. So unlike a lot of other companies where it's, in the 3D printing sector, for the longest time, we were compared to people like Desktop Metal or X1.
Mhm.
But they sold the printers. We used the printers. There's
Right.
a fundamental difference there, right? We use the printers. And then, unlike other 3D print shops that did have some printers, which there's not many of them, um, We have both. We have subtractive and additive. And for those who don't know, subtractive is just the process of taking a block of steel and chipping away at it until you get the part you want. Additive is 3D printing, right? It's layer by layer.
Right.
You're adding on the metal, or in this case, on the 3D prints on our printers, what happens is there's a bed of powder, right? And they shoot a laser in the powder, and that laser hardens that powder. And then literally like Indiana Jones in the tomb, right? When he comes out and the sand comes down and the piece is still there. That's what it looks like, right? It comes out of the powder as a whole part. Um,
Right. Right.
so that's 3DX Industries as the company. As you know what the company is. Roger, the CEO, has been there for 7 years. He's been in the machine shop world for over 30. The guys that work at the shop have collectively been there, some of them 5 to 7 years on average. The CNC guys have been at the shop, and they're all shareholders. I'm very proud of that. When I got there, that was
Yeah.
one of the first things I did was, I walked in and nobody was a shareholder, and I said, "Why aren't the employees here shareholders?" Oh, we
Exactly.
haven't gotten around to it. I said, "Well, we're going to get around to it." So that was one of the first things I did was make sure that everyone was a shareholder. Now they buy weekly, and it helps, for market support, and it helps for morale, it helps for productivity, it
Yeah.
helps for
Absolutely.
team building. So that's what's going on.
Oh, fantastic. Hey, let me ask you this. So, as far as the 3D or the metal printing capabilities, what types of alloys are you guys working with?
Great question. So for pretty much everything, right? So
Okay.
that's a great question, Ryan, because when I got there, right, it was like metal. And they're like, "What kind of metal?"
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
I didn't know. My background's in finance and law, so I was totally new to this
Sure.
when I got there. But yeah, basically every kind of stainless steel, copper, brass, you name it. And on the 3D print side, it's
Yeah.
getting more and more advanced as it goes on. You got to remember, 3D printing just came to being, right? 15,
Sure.
20 years ago on the composite side, on the plastic side. On the metal side, we're talking
It's
about
very new.
very new. 7 years.
Right.
We got serial number 003, I think it was, of the
Oh,
machine
wow.
from X1, right? So I talked to Dave Burns, former CEO of X1, all the time, and he was the one who financed the machine before I had gotten there to bring it into the company. But when they dropped it off, there was no they just dropped it off. There was no guide, there was no book, right? They were literally proving this technology out just 7 years ago. So now 7 years passes, and our team just got back from AMUG, Additive Manufacturer Users Group Conference, and
Mhm.
just now the chemical engineers are coming up with composites and powders that are able to, do brass, copper,
Okay. Gotcha.
all these other things. But for the most part, it was only stainless steel. And they were proving
Okay.
out the technologies for the last, 6 years. And just this year, they're really getting into all these other things. So they're saying in the next couple of years, you're going to be able to do silver and gold, and
Wow.
which is,
So some of the softer metals. Yeah.
yes, yes, exactly.
Gotcha. Oh, very cool. So I'm familiar with more of the composite side of 3D printing. I actually own one that's about 10 feet away from me right now.
Oh, nice,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd just tinker with it. But obviously, when it comes to 3D printing on the composite sides, the bed size is important when it
Yeah,
comes to what you can actually print with. Is it the same on the metal side as well?
correct, correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So our bed, so in composite, they have a bed, which is what you're
Okay.
talking about, right? In
Right.
with our X1 3D printers, they call it a build box, right?
Okay.
And that build box right now, and don't quote me on this, but I think it's 24 inches by 12 inches by 12 inches high. So 24
Okay.
wide by 12 wide by 12 high.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a decent sized part that you can fit in there.
it's a decent sized part, and what's interesting is that unlike the plastic 3D printers, the binder jet printing, right? So for example, let's say you wanted to create a picture of a bull, the Wall Street Bull, right?
Okay.
And you're gonna put a base on the Wall Street Bull. If everybody can imagine the Wall Street Bull, underneath the legs, it's empty, right?
Hmm.
You can actually put another part in there under the leg. So let's say in that build box, you can fit a Wall Street Bull, 20 wedding rings,
Ah,
what do you call it? 10 tokens, 10 pen cases, and it'll actually use 100% of that build box at one
that's
time.
awesome.
So it's not
Yeah.
like the composite printers, whatever you put into the program, it's what it's going to spit out. It's going to spit out one thing at a time. Here we
Right.
can put whatever fits in that box in any combination. So if you have, you metal printed a table, a little table, a little tiny table, but under the legs there's space. You can put other
Right.
products under that space and really filled up that bill box. So in that bill box, you can literally on one run, you can make 50, 100 different things in that one run.
So it's almost similar to like a plasma type table, which is obviously subtractive technology, but where you could take a sheet of 1/4 inch steel and run multiple designs out of it at one time if you wanted to.
Correct.
Same type of, yeah. So
Kind
that's
kind of
really
that
cool.
model. Yeah, it's kind of that model. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That's really cool technology. What are the other kind of capabilities of 3DX at this point? I mean, we talked about the CNC and we talked about the 3D printing. Is there anything else that we should be talking about right now?
Yeah, I think on the first part, just to go back to kind of when I joined, and maybe
Oh yeah, sure.
a little bit about the team. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
one of the first things that I wanted to make sure of, I'm a firm believer that a business is people. People build businesses. So too
Right.
often, we think that, a corporation just runs itself and hey, what do these guys do? And in reality, it's people that build a business. So I've always had a simple take when it came to investing, and it came from my time at Merrill Lynch. I had a great mentor there, and I just finished finance school. And if you allow me to digress a little bit, I just finished finance school, and she has me do an analysis on, these 5 companies for a portfolio of one of her clients, and I do every ratio in the world, right? Your ROI, how much revenue they're making,
Mhm.
the cap structure, everything, every kind of number scenario. And when I was done, I gave it to her, and she said, "Well, give me the most important one, which is," she said, "Who are the monkeys running the show?" That's what she said to me, right? And it always stuck out in my head because she was like, "Look, if the people there aren't competent, it doesn't matter what you have, right?"
Sure.
And then fast forward, I'm looking through the OTC company, and you get to some of these OTC companies, and you go and look at management on their website, and our website, by the way, shameless plug, 3dxindustries.com. Check it out. We have most of our information on there that's current. But
Will do.
you go on their website, and it's like President John Smith, Treasurer John Smith, Secretary John Smith. And it's like you're never going to build a business with one guy, right?
Right.
So when I got to 3DX, one of the core things I saw, they had a great back end of human capital. So they had all the guys necessary to make a part. Right? They had experienced CNC guys, they had experienced additive guys. Everything you needed to make a part was there. On the
Sure.
front end, it was empty. So they didn't have, the IR guy. They didn't have the PR guy. They didn't have a board of directors. They didn't
Hmm.
have these what I call gaps in management, right? So when you have a management structure, a hierarchy of a Fortune 500, it goes CEO, and then the hierarchy goes down to chief operating
Sure.
officer, CFO. Okay, it goes down. They didn't have most of that. There was a lot of holes in that. With most OTC companies, very common thing, right? So I
Right.
set out in the first year to fill as many of those management gaps as possible. And I'm very proud of what we've done in the first year, my tenure there, which is we created a board of directors. We brought on another, 4 or 5 engineers with PhDs. We brought on legal. We brought on investor relations. We brought on social media marketing. I mean, the Twitter wasn't even on a year ago, right?
Right.
So these are all the things I'm proud of. So when I joined, I said, year one, I have a 5-year plan. First year was create a dream team, build a team. People build businesses. Businesses don't build themselves. People build
Hmm.
businesses. So we built that out. If you look on 3DX Industries, you'll see most of our team there now, highly qualified, a lot of Fortune 500 experience, a lot of NASDAQ experience, a lot of investment banking experience, all the pieces that we need to take us to the next level. And
Right.
as well as the engineers, more engineers to solve better and bigger problems. So just kind of wanted to rewind to that because I think that's important for people to know that it wasn't just 2 guys, 3 guys in a machine shop anymore.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
So yeah, and then the
That's great.
capabilities, as far as the capabilities, we can literally make anything, which is crazy because between the subtractive and the additive side, right? And by the way, this was a bottleneck for them because if you know anything about marketing, if you market to everybody, you market to no one. And
Mhm.
if you say, hey, we can make anything, it's a problem because you can't market that to anyone. So you got to get
Right.
more niche. So we've been, diving into our niches, which have been, mainly subprime contracts for government agencies.
Okay.
So that's really where we're focused on winning now. That's really, who is going to do it?
Hmm.
Who is going to help you do it? Who's going to write? You don't ask a fish to climb a tree, so don't ask the CNC guy to go and write a government contract,
Right.
right? He's not going to do it. So we launched the government contracting division. We brought on Mr. Harold Blackwell. Mr. Harold Blackwell has been in the government contracting space for, uh, I don't want to misquote his career, but I want to say over 10 years.
Okay.
In combination with myself, I used to work at Servitude in Intelligent Relations, and I've probably written, you know, I don't know, maybe 50 or 60 government contracts for clients.
Wow.
So
Okay.
I knew that it was possible. I also knew you need a team. You can't do it yourself. If not, you just can't do it. You can't do it yourself. You need a team to do it. These government
Sure.
contracts take, 2, 3 weeks.
Lengthy.
Oh man, they take 2, 3. The average government contract is between 80 and 150 pages. And it takes,
Crazy.
yeah, it's crazy. And it takes about, 2 to 3 weeks and two guys completely on it, man hours to fill these out. And they better know what they're doing, right? They better know.
Sure.
And then in combination with that, you need the input of the management or of obviously 3DX's management to know that they can actually fulfill it. So we launched this government contracting division with Harold, and the goal was, when I brought these, by the way, when I brought these guys on, I to keep in mind if you guys are looking at the stock price, which has been under a lot of pressure lately, I managed to recruit lawyers, accountants, guys with 10, 20 years of experience for 50,000 shares. Go for a 2 year contract. For a 2 year
Okay.
contract. Do the
Right.
math, right? Do the math of what these guys and you have to ask yourself, why the hell would somebody sign on for that? It's
Right.
peanuts. Right? Well, they believe in the upside. That's the answer, right? They believe in the upside. They know where we're taking it. They're not concerned with today's price. They're concerned with building something. So
Yeah,
anyway,
absolutely.
I digress. Harold Blackwell got brought on, and the goal was simple. It was, hey, if we can fill out two government contracts, one government contract a quarter, we'll win one a year. And these government contracts are, anywhere from $5 to $10 million when they win, right?
Well, absolutely.
And if you
Yeah.
look,
We've all heard of the government hammer that would cost $10 at Home Depot, and it's $100 when the government bids it
well,
out.
yeah,
Yeah, we
and
need
it's
it.
you understand why. Well, somebody had to write that government the bid
Sure.
the RFP, right? 180
Sure.
pages. Somebody they took time to write that, and then you got a process of winning it and sorting it out. Um,
Yep.
but I realized, we had de minimis revenues when I joined. So what I said, we need, something that's strong, something that's gonna come in and really bang for us. And the only way we can do that is to take a long-term approach, not scraping at the wall and, trying to win another 30,000, $20,000 bid here. Because that's our average contract size right now is $60,000 to $70,000.
Wow.
So that comes in, right, every 30 to 25 days. So it's
Yeah.
not bad, it's not bad for a small
Yeah.
business, but it's not where we want to be. We want to be a big business,
Sure.
right? We want to be NASDAQ caliber. So we know that once we win a government contract, it'll all change. So we're
Yeah.
steadfast on that. And when we launched the government contracting division, it was really simple. We put on, we've got Harold to sort it out. He went and sorted out our sam.gov account, Boeing.com, what do you call it, Raytheon.com, MetroNorth.com. So all not just the government agencies, but some of these NGOs,
Hmm.
right? Like
Right.
if you live in the Northeast, Metro North is, the train,
Okay. Gotcha.
right? So they go out and they send $2 million bids for you to make bolts for the trains, for the train tracks,
Right.
right?
Right.
These are things that are so easy to us. And by the way, this is in my personal career and again at 3DX, what I've realized, the bigger the deal, the easier it is to win because there's less competition. So
Mm.
when I was in real estate, I realized this rather quickly. And back in undergrad too, when I was applying for jobs, right? So if you go and shop a $10 million building, there's less competition. You go and buy a $250,000 home, there's a ton of competition. Everybody's
Sure.
here. So the same
Right.
thing with these government contracts, right? You think, oh my God, there must be a ton of people bidding on them. Well, we'll see. That's what I like to say. I don't like to make any promises, but we'll find out for sure. But we're definitely filling out government contracts as we speak. And by the end of the year, we hope to see something come to fruition there.
Okay. Yeah. And as a follow up to that question, so you mentioned early on in this conversation about the U.S. Navy chain that you're making, the anchor chain. I'm going to assume, based on the conversation right now, that that was a subcontract for you guys. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
But based on that, that's when you guys developed your plan to get into the direct government contracting.
Yeah, so I'm a
Fantastic.
80, I don't know if people have heard the 80/20 rule, right? So in business, 80% of your revenue comes from 20% of your clients. In most cases, not all,
Hmm.
right? That's a generalization, but generally that's how it is. So when I
Right.
came in, I audited their customer base. And I said, well, 80% of your revenue is coming from these 20%. And the 20% were subprime contractor work. And it was
Right.
in that space. So I said, okay, and by the way, the same works the other way. 80% of your headaches come from 20% of your customer, or 20%, most of your headaches come from 80% of your customers, right? So it's like most of the headaches were coming from that 20%, right? That
Right. The
small
little
amount,
guys.
the little
Yep.
amount that kind of you were catching up. So we chopped those off and we focused on, let's just focus on where this bulk revenue is. And let's take a long-term approach, stop scraping at the barrel and stop thinking short-winded. I raised them a little capital and we made sure that, we weren't just taking jobs to stay alive because that's where they were when I got there. They were just taking
Yeah.
jobs to stay alive. We raised a little capital. We had a little breathing room. We have breathing room now. We don't need to raise any more capital. And now we're just focused on winning big bids.
Awesome. Awesome. You guys are not only in the 3D printing and metal industries. You have just made a recent acquisition that I noticed. Is actually this was a disclosure from April 20th of this year, so a couple days ago. Maybe you can speak about that, and I guess it kind of speaks to your real estate investing experience, correct?
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Okay.
um, So I'll say something that, I'm very curt with the way I speak. I hope you guys realize that by now. But, the manufacturing businesses, I've had a lot of businesses, online businesses, real estate businesses. I own a laundromat. I own a selfie studio, photography. I've had a ton of business. I'm an entrepreneur. So
Yeah, definitely.
when I walked into the manufacturing business and I got to understand it a little bit better after 2, 3 months, I said, oh, this sucks, man. The manufacturing business, you have to quote the job. So for those who don't understand how the manufacturing business works, they spend 15 to 30 days understanding what the client wants and quoting the job. Once they
Mhm.
quote the job, they get the bid. The bid gets accepted from the customer, right? Then they start the work. Let's say the work takes 2 months. They do the work and they invoice the customer and they get paid 30 to 60 days later. If the customer's real big, 90 days later. I don't know
Crazy.
about you guys. Crazy, crazy business model,
Yeah.
right? It's like that's insane. You have to wait 3 to 6 months to get paid. Meanwhile, you got to finance this. You got to finance that production. right? So it's
Right.
very expensive, and if you don't have your financing in place, it gets very expensive. All of a sudden, you're swiping credit cards for this drill bit, and things get expensive.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
but I told him, I said, look, there's two ways to grow here when I got here. And the 5-year plan was this. Number one, recruit the dream team. That was number one, which is checkmate. We got that out of the way. And then there was two paths to growth, organic and non-organic. Organic was what we're doing with the government contracting side. Hey, let's
Hmm.
win more bids. Let's get that number up. Inorganic was, hey, let's just create acquisitions. Let's just knock them off one by one. And we'll go, we'll create the first acquisition, it'll be 2 million in assets. And then the next acquisition will be 4 million in assets. And then the next acquisition will be 8 million, and then 16, 32, 64. So that's my model right there.
Hmm.
So back last year, we acquired our first company, which was Specialty Metalworks, LLC. Specialty Metalworks
Okay.
is another machine shop. And the machine shop world is ripe for consolidation. Ripe. What I mean is all these baby boomers started all these machine shops, right? And they have millions of dollars in machinery there. Now they're getting ready to retire. And they told everybody under 40 in America to not work with your hands and go to college. Well, what happens? Now we
Right.
don't have CNC operators. Shit, we don't have carpenters, we don't have plumbers, we don't have any of that stuff here. It's the demand, there's a high demand there. So what happens? Long story short is the people that know how to run the machine shop don't have the money to buy the machine shop. And the people that have the money to buy the machine shop don't know how to run the machine shop. So there's a huge opportunity in that manufacturing space, right? Because the same thing with 3DX, right? I walked in, I go, man, there's $2 million worth of machinery here, and it's not booking that way. But the same way happens when these people are trying to sell their company, and what ends up happening is they auction it off. They have a $5,000, $6,000 rent bill. They go, well, I'm done. I can't sell this business for what I paid for it. I'm just going to auction off all the machinery. That's what I'm going to do, and just close up the shop. So what I have done is I've gone and we've had conversations with some of these machine shop owners, and we say, look, instead of you guys piecing it out, just sell it to 3DX, come in, work for us for 3 years, report the revenues under us, and then we'll cash you out. Right?
Hmm.
So this allows us to bolt on acquisitions. So we did our first acquisition of Specialty Metalworks last year. And then Homescape was the company I built with real estate. And what I
Okay.
told these guys was I said, look, manufacturing sector revenue model is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Like we have to wait too long. We need a baseline of revenue to make sure that we're not waiting for another government contract and we know how to fund government contracts without running large credit lines. So if we have a stable amount of, let's say, real estate that pays us every month, we don't have to
Hmm.
worry about, hey, we got this government contract that's worth, $2 million and we need to pay our guys for the next 3 months and that money's not coming in for another 6 months, right? So
Right.
that was my goal, and my goal was to create a book value for the company. So if you go look at our balance sheet, you'll see the assets went from 200,000 to 2 million. And then after they report this acquisition, it's going to go to 4 million. And then after they report the next,
Nice.
I have another acquisition in play here that we won't talk about, but my goal is 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, right? And then if I do that 4 more times next year, I'll be at $1 billion assets under management. I'm thinking somewhere around 700 million in liabilities, so that's 300 million in net.
Yeah.
It's under management at a 3x multiple. We're $1 billion company, right? Which, by the way, is still a small company. A lot of people don't realize that $1 billion business is
Hmm.
on Wall Street anyway. It's still a small company.
Right.
So, that was my plan. My plan was to create a book value. I don't believe in companies that, the way I see it is, somebody just put up something about Buffett, right? You own a piece of the business, right? When you buy a stock, you own a piece of that business. So what do you own is always my question. What is it? What is actually that you own? If everything went to hell, what can you sell there that's actually worth something?
Right.
For me, the first thing, the machinery. When I walked in, I was like, oh man, there's a ton of machinery here, right? The same thing with specialty metal.
Hmm.
Walked in there, like, man, there's freaking $1 million worth of machinery here. This is awesome. And the same thing with now the real estate place. So moving forward, we're looking to acquire more manufacturing and subtractive businesses with real estate attached to it, right? That
Gotcha.
maybe commercial properties that have a rent roll, that pay us every single month. So we stabilize the revenues, we stabilize the assets on the books while having the upside of subtractive and additive manufacturing.
Yeah, makes total sense. Total sense. And you said something in there. You can't really talk about it right now, but you do have some other acquisitions that are planned.
We shop acquisitions all day long. So
Okay.
that's what we do. And yeah, that's our goal is, as much as I would love to win what do you call it, a government contract today, even if we won it today, the revenues wouldn't be in for 6 months.
Right.
So
Right.
it's got to be a healthy balance of winning organically and making sure we're aggressive on the acquisition side. Because on the acquisition side, as soon as that acquisition is done, we get to bolt on the assets and we get to bolt on the revenue. So when you
Yep.
start looking at our numbers and you see that they're improving, most of the time it's going to be because they just made another acquisition and they get to report those revenues now. But yes,
Yeah,
we're
absolutely.
always shopping acquisitions. And like I said, the manufacturing sector is ripe for consolidation. If any of you guys know of a machine shop out there, you know exactly what I'm talking about. They built a great
Hmm.
business and now it's like they're ready to retire. Well, good luck selling it because there's
Man,
not.
I just moved from the San Fernando Valley a couple years ago, and I mean the amount of machine shops out there that were supporting the aerospace industry, and it's amazing how many of those are that are out there.
Well, and that's
So
what's
yeah,
interesting
and
too.
then you guys, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say that's what's interesting too. Some of these machine shops get built up on one government contract.
Sure.
Excuse me. So you'll see, for example, like let's say the San Fernando. I don't know what's going on over there, but you know, Boeing or NASA or the U.S. Navy gives a 20 million government contract. Somebody sets up a machine shop there, and they operate for the 7 years of the government contract. And when the
Oh yeah.
government contract's done, it's like, well, they already depreciated the machinery. It's still good. You can still
Hmm.
use it. You can still make parts. It's still valuable, but they don't have any use for it. They wrote it all off,
Right.
and they're like, we'll just leave it here. So
No, that makes total sense. You guys have a shareholder event that's coming up. Can you tell us what to expect from it?
yeah. So that's I'm a big believer of. I'm a huge fan of Buffett. I'm a huge fan of Buffett, and he
Hmm.
has a yearly shareholder event. He treats his shareholders like partners. So when I came in, that was one of the first things I did was, start bringing that attitude to them and
Yeah.
saying, look, stop hiding from shareholders. Because God bless all the OTC traders and investors, but sometimes they're a little, they have some comments maybe, and they have some comments that they can direct.
There's a lot of personalities.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There you go. There's a lot of personality. There's a lot of personality, and when entrepreneurs are trying to build a business, I don't know. I'm not speaking for anyone else, but when you're trying to build a business, and
Yeah.
you have 100 shareholders, chirping at you because the stock went down 7%, it's hard.
Hmm.
It's hard to build a business. So what a lot of these guys tend to do is just block it out.
Right.
And what I told them is, no, we're going to go the other way. We're going to, lean right into it. And we're going to have a conversation with every single shareholder. And we're going to be totally transparent. And we're going to have Discord conversations and Twitter spaces. And, we'll do as much outreach as we can. And as a matter of fact, yearly, we're going to have an annual shareholder event. Oh, and then
That's great.
so that's really where that started. And, it's the first that they've ever had. So, kind of similar to Warren Buffett, how he has his annual, shareholder event. This is the first one.
Yeah.
So every year we'll have one, and every year you'll be able to see our progress. And it's good for all, for all sides because the shareholders get to come in and see the real business, meet the real people, understand what's going on. It keeps management and the team honest, right? Because you have to come in now, you got to answer to these guys. So I think
Sure.
that's part of it too, right? Some management don't want to do it because they're like, well, I didn't do what I said I was going to do. So I was like, well, this is exactly why you should do it. This is exactly why you
Yeah.
should do it, right? So
Right.
for me, it kind of keeps everybody honest, right? It makes sure that
Sure.
if we say we're going
Accountability.
accountability, exactly accountability. So where it's June 8th, it's in Ferndale, Washington.
Okay.
Everybody's invited, shareholders and non-shareholders. If you guys want to come and check it out, we're going to give you a tour of the Ferndale facility in Ferndale, Washington. We'll give you a tour of the Blaine, Washington facility.
Nice.
And then we'll have, I'm sure, some kind of event with food and, we're working out the details now. We're headed to Planet Microcap in Las Vegas, a finance show in May here, May 2nd through the 5th. And then right after that, June 8th, we'll be back in Washington for the annual shareholder event.
Awesome. Now on June 8th, are you guys going to do any kind of virtual thing for people that can't make it in person?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. We'll
Okay.
host, what do you call it? We'll host Facebook. I'm kind of chuckling because, so I'm full transparency. I'm 39, right? Roger, the CEO is
Wait, you said you're semi-retired at 39.
semi-retired at
Is it?
37, but yes.
Geez, that's awesome. You beat me by 3 years, man.
Hey
I
man,
was semi-retired at 40. Yeah.
hey, good for you, man. Whatever it takes,
Yeah, yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, congratulations.
Oh,
Yeah,
congratulations to you. Yeah. Hey, if there's any tips out there for other people, I think, just live under your means and get something that cash flows for you all the time. And
absolutely.
at least that's how I did it. But
Yeah, absolutely.
what do you call it? What I was gonna say is Roger, the CEO, is 58, and the CNC guys are CNC guys. So it's interesting because you say, "Are you gonna do something virtually?" Right? Before I got there, they had no. We didn't have the Twitter running. We didn't have Facebook Live. They're like, "What's
Yeah.
that?" Right? So now I've managed to recruit a lot of guys on our team, and you see a lot of them on Twitter chirping away, and they really help us come to this new era, right, into 2022, where we can now stream things live. So yeah, we'll definitely stream,
Awesome.
the conference live, our talk live. I have some videos already on the 3DX Industries Twitter of me. I gave a tour of the shop, so you guys can see the shop. You guys can see some of the things, that I saw. Like, one of the small things I saw in the shops that, again, I'm a value investor. I want to see where's my money. If I own a piece of a business,
Right.
what is that business actually worth, right? So when I got there, they have the CNC machines have drill bits that you insert the
Hmm.
drill bit into the CNC machine. These drill bits are $500, $800 a pop.
Oh, yeah.
Again, I'm naive. I'm coming from a finance background, a legal background.
Sure.
I didn't understand that. And then I'm counting the drill bits, right? So I'm sitting there, I'm counting the drill bits and I'm going, geez, Louise. And these are things that once we're still not audited, but as we just finished this last acquisition, now what we're going to do is we're going to get audited. And when we get audited, a lot of these things are going to come to light. We were undervalued, that they didn't report,
Right.
right? They didn't
Right.
they didn't take the time to say, hey, how much is that Haas CNC machine really worth? What's the replacement value on that? Hey, what are all these drill bits worth? Hey, what is all
Yep.
this metal that's laying around worth? Because I mean, some of these things change. Like we have, copper laying on the floor that we go and we add it up. It's like, oh, there's 30 grand of copper right there. It's like no one
Oh, yeah.
won't put that.
Copper's out of control. So, yeah.
Yeah. So
Hey, let me ask you this. So with your background and with the fact that you guys, want to do your audited financials, is there any chance you guys uplist to QB status?
yes, that is the goal. That is the goal.
Okay.
Now that we're finished
Okay.
here, we want to uplist to OTCQB, get the financials straight, get I'd like to get to 64 million AUM, assets under management, before we uplist to
Okay.
the NASDAQ. So
Okay.
we want to be at, we're looking at later this year for the OTCQB, and getting the audited financials done. And then
Okay.
after that, next year for the NASDAQ, God willing.
Yeah. I mean, you guys have a decent share structure. So, I mean,
Well, that was one of the things I loved
I don't
about it.
see why it couldn't happen. Right.
Yeah, that's one of the things I loved about it. Tiny share structure,
Right.
tiny flow. A lot of it's held by insiders. There's not a lot of, traffic. So, like on days like the last week, it only took a few $1,000s to tank us, which is horrible, right?
Yeah.
But it shows you how tight it is. So,
Sure.
for me, it's like, okay, the same, as Jeff Bezos says, and Warren Buffett says, don't look at the stock price because you'll feel like either a genius or a fool on whatever given day.
Hmm.
Focus on building the business. So
Right.
that's exactly what we're doing. We're focused on building the business and focus on getting long-term investors that understand exactly what we're doing to support us, and just keep rocking, man.
That's awesome. Well, Nicholas, it was great having you. Is there anything else you want to add before we finish this up?
No, thank you guys for having me. We'd love to have everyone as a 3DX shareholder. We love to see people
Yeah.
at the annual shareholder event. And if you guys are on Twitter, hit me up. I'll follow you back. We can have any conversations. I'm pretty open. My cell phone number's on my bio. You guys can always call me with any questions you guys have. And thank you
Awesome.
again, Ryan. I really appreciate it, man.
Awesome. Yeah, and full disclosure from me, I'm not currently a shareholder of yours, but after listening to this and knowing the industry just a slight bit, man, I'm interested. I'm definitely interested. So I'm going to do a little more due diligence on my end, and I might jump in. So
Yeah, I appreciate
I
it.
appreciate your time.
No, I appreciate your time, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank you to everybody else in this Discord, man.
yeah, for sure. All right, Nicholas,
All the best.
take care of yourself.
You too.
Okay.
Bye.
All right, bye bye.